And welcome, boys and girls, to another episode of Funny Talk with Mangelli and Max. I'm Tom Mangelli. This is my lovely co-host, Doug Max. Say hi,
Thank
Doug.
you, Tom. I did my hair for you today. I hope you appreciate it.
Both of them. Thank you. And we have a special guest tonight in Rob Epple. How you doing, Rob?
Oh, doing great. So glad to be here. Thank you guys for having me on the show.
Thanks for being had. And before we do anything else, Doug, why don't you mention our wonderful sponsor?
Jack Hoffman of J. Irwin Productions. Listen, you want a comedy show? You want a fundraiser? You miss comedy and you want to invite a comedian to your home, to your kitchen, to your basement? Write to Jack at jirwinproductions.com. Wonderful man, wonderful sponsor of our show, comedian, impresario. He knows everyone on earth. And in these desperate COVID times, if you want a funny person to come and clean your kitchen or your bathroom,
Let's start with that again.
Tom, you know Jack has already made $37.50 booking comics to clean bathrooms.
That's all you because you're OCD. I'm not cleaning. I don't clean my own bathroom.
It might listen. It costs more than $37.50 for me to clean a bathroom because I do detail work.
All right.
So this is for people that want to end up licking their bathroom floor.
Do you get paid more if you're a comic who can paint?
I can also. I'm a man of many talents, Rob. Did you know I could paint?
I did not. I was actually more pitching myself because I can paint too. Are we going to have a painting duel?
Tom, no. What a painting duel? A painting duel? What are you? A painting duel, Rob? I love you. We'd be a painting company, a painting duo.
Hey, you cut, I roll. We'll have a room done in 20 minutes.
Well, if you need someone to tape, I'm your guy.
That to tape. Wait, to videotape or to that would be fun. That would make a funny video.
First of all,
Rob Epple and Doug Max painting.
First of all, there are very few circumstances where I personally will use painter's tape because I know how to paint.
I'm with you, buddy.
Okay.
I was a licensed and insured home improvement contractor for 10 years. People like you old Jewish man, yeah, I did that. And I got pretty good at painting because I hated paying for it, and I'm like, and when you started painting, no problem. And then you get covered with paint and you learn. There are ways of holding a brush.
Oh, it's great. I have an entire drawer full of jeans and shirts that are just covered in different colors of paint. And I've been on a million different jobs, commercial jobs, house jobs, everything. I mean, I've painted
Rob, I didn't
house.
know that. That's great.
Yeah.
Maybe,
no, I mean,
something, I painted like a third of my house that I could get to easily. I was honestly thinking of having like a barbecue picnic for comedians to get physical labor out of them.
You're gonna be the Miyagi of
well, seriously, since I'm thinking about it, Rob, if like I said, you paint one lap, one lap board, just the same one around the house, and I'll feed you, I'll give you all the food and drink, I'll give you an open mic and a speaker for 5 minutes. You can hang with.
Oh wow, 5 minutes. That's there we go. Now
you 7.
7. Oh man, at the end of the show or in the middle?
So welcome
to right after my set.
Welcome to Comics Out of Work.
Yeah, that's it, man. I tell you, once this stuff started, it was painting. I was painting constantly, whether it was my house or working with several different contractors. I was all over the place. And I love it too. So I love doing that. Power washing. It's cathartic. It's relaxing. To power wash.
I can't tell you how many times I would look at a room that I painted. Actually, I'd look at a wall. I finished that wall so I can go out and smoke. That would be my incentive at a corner, at a stopping point, one time I did a house, a very wealthy house, and she wanted this whatever top and bottom different colors for her boy, and she hired a woman to paint her daughter's room with like artistic stuff on the wall. That woman painted the entire room, and I saw her painting the baseboard. And you know how the top of the baseboard has a little, I don't know what you call it, it comes out, might be 1/4 of an inch or less.
Yeah, it's like an indent or like.
She was painting that top edge of the trim, the baseboard trim, with a painter's brush, like a little painter's brush, because she didn't know how to use a 2.5 inch brush. And
Yes, the angled cutting brush. She didn't know how to do that.
And she I use that for everything.
Oh, so do I.
use the angle. And listen, I've learned I like a hard hand. I got this great brush with the hard
I've
hand
heard that about you.
for cutting in. Yeah.
Sorry, Doug, you tossed
was,
it up. I had to smack it out of the park.
Rob, you remind me of a time. It was one of my early open mics at Union, and a very large comic who I won't say, had just finished a set, and he had like really short, fat, pudgy, sausage, tiny gherkin fingers. And he brought up another, I forget who it was, another fat comic with pudgy gherkin finger hands. And you know how when you bring somebody up, you shake their hand or whatever. And I saw their two hands going together, and I made some horrible comment, like how how it was surprising their fingers. I don't know what the comment was. It was insulting. I'm normally not an insult comic, but
and now your next comic coming to the stage. I know exactly who you're
anyway,
talking about.
paintbrushes have a hard hand and a soft hand, depending on if you're cutting in or doing trim or whatever.
Oh yeah, and the trim is the part that's so tricky, because you mess up even the slightest bit, you got to get the other brush and you got to touch it up when you're done, and it's a hassle. I mean, it's funny. Sorry, what's that?
I was going to say my secret for all that, I'll do all the trim first, except for the except for the top of the baseboard. I'll do all around the doors, all around the window. If I bleed over into the wall, it doesn't matter, because cutting in on a wall is a lot easier than cutting in the 1/2 inch of the trim. So I always do my trim first and just don't splatter on it.
I'm going to try that, because the alternative to that, with me, it was always, I would roll right down, and I would get generous with the rolling, so I didn't have to be careful, and then when it was done, then I would do the trim very detailed. And I mean, that you're playing. And
the other thing that I do, and I leave the bottom trim anyway, because I know drips are going to go on that, and I'll deal with the bottom of the baseboard. Although I will do the baseboard, I'll do the baseboard first, but I'll leave the second coat of it for after I've done all the walls. You following this, Tom? Because we're going to have a painting competition, me and you.
Yeah, I just want to cut in and say we're about through with our time.
Are we done with the show? Tom, we haven't discussed the wall preparation.
I haven't had a chance to plug my next. I've had a chance to plug my next thing. I'll be painting a guest bedroom next week, and anybody wants to come and watch, they can. They have to wear a mask and social distance, so stay in the other room. And it should take about 2.5, 3 hours.
Videotape it, Rob. Put it up. Do a live Facebook feed. I've been.
Oh yeah, that's all anybody wants to see, Doug. They want to see me bent over, my ass half hanging out, and painting. Oh damn, I cursed. Sorry,
Rob.
Family friendly.
Since Tom and I have been doing the show, we've gotten to be pretty well known, and I will tell you, we've received about, I think it's 6 at last count, requests to see your butt half hanging out on the show.
Now that's a lie. Nobody wants to see that. Even my girlfriend's like, put that away. I don't want to see it.
So we haven't really introduced you. Rob, I don't know about you, Tom, but Rob goes back to I think like my first days in comedy. I can't remember when I met you.
Me too.
First, but it has to go 8 or 9 years. How long are you in comedy, Rob? When I met you, how long were you in? How long?
I've been doing it for 15 years.
Oh wow!
And that I don't count 2020, so it would be 16 years, because I did 2 shows in all of 2020, with the exception of a strip club in Hackensack.
Rob, you look too good for doing comedy that long. You're supposed to have. What's your secret? How do you stay young and vital?
Oh, it's Revlon. That's foundation, mascara, eyeliner. No, I don't belong in the business, because it's so funny how so many comics develop their humor from like dark places of their life and rough upbringings, and I didn't have that. I had good. My parents were very good.
That here. Take this gun and hide it under your bed,
along with the other ones. No,
Robbie, my boy, how you doing? Get me a fucking drink, you bastard. I remember your set.
Yeah, some of that was embellished, but like I wish you knew my dad, man. I wish you knew him, and he was a terrific guy. He was so supportive of what I was doing, but he was a car guy. You guys would have gotten along so
I bet
good.
we would have.
Yeah, so I have two older brothers, and we were always out working on the cars on the weekends, and like my brother EJ would get to do like polishing and all like some of the trim work, and he would do a whole lot of, and he got to learn how to rebuild the top of a small block Chevy motor. My other brother got to actually take apart the whole motor and put everything back together and build it, do machine work and get it on the dyno and do all kinds of crazy stuff. I was the brother that held the light.
Well, Rob,
there's an art to that.
Father. I'm sure I would have loved your father, but don't categorize me in those car people. Doug is the car person. I don't know how to change oil.
Not well, me and Doug have had a couple of conversations about this. I mean, I know he's a BMW guy. I'm a Chevy guy. 20 years ago, there was a rivalry there, a kind of, if you had a BMW.
I think the rivalry is settled because I'm pretty sure everybody's convinced Audis are the biggest assholes on the road. I drive on the turnpike and it's almost the assholes are. I'm like, what happened? What happened with the BMWs? They used to. What happened to us? Now it's the
Doug.
Audi.
I used to have an Audi.
Tom?
Now I have an Innie. I have an Innie now.
Oh my God! For our listeners in Ethiopia, he was referring to the belly button, either an Audi or an Innie, but Audi is spelled Outey. It's not really a word.
I've got a whole family of pygmies living in my belly button. That's another story.
Oh, Tom.
Yeah, I don't want to hear the story. Do you, Rob?
No. Neither did the pygmies.
If it's a good story, why not? Come on.
So, so I wanted to compliment Rob, because I was thinking about, first of all, I'm sorry it's been so long since you've been on, and I don't know how that happened. I do. It's Tom's fault. And he feels bad about it. Tom, apologize.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
I know you're screwing around, but come on.
So I was thinking about, I can recall having two incredible laughs in like the last 10 years, certainly not from listening to most comics, but Rob gave me my second biggest laugh. It was inadvertent, but it was the best. They say when you make somebody laugh, when somebody makes you laugh, you love them, whether they're whatever their problems are. Anyway, I loved Rob that moment because it was one of these laughs that I could not let out. I had to keep it in, and that was the hardest part. It was like all my laughter was going down into my body, and the pressure was building up. I forget how it got out, but. Rob, will it embarrass you terribly if I share this funny story?
Oh, you listen. You can tell me a story you want. I'll be as vulnerable as possible. Your viewers are not going to think fondly of me after you finish the story. But it was you have to set if it's the story they think you're talking about. It was a very tense situation that somebody had to do something. And I attempted, but I didn't do it right. I didn't do it well.
I forget that set. Actually, yeah, there were two things that you did that night that made me. I'm deaf in my ear, in one ear. I can't hear at all. So this one night, Rob was hosting, and the first words that I heard out of his mouth were, "Lady, do you need something? I won't say the something in that mouth to shut you up."
And it was not a chicken.
Yeah. Before the show even began, I wasn't aware of it because I can't hear. So that was how the show began.
I have to explain this a little bit. There's definitely some missing context there.
Of course.
It was this was this particular person had been acting up before the show even started. Before they even got in the room, they were acting up. And I noticed it from the moment that the manager brought them into the room and brought their group right to the front of the show, right in the front seats. And she was hooting and hollering. She was giving the waitress a hard time. She was really acting up, and a lot. It was, if I'm not mistaken, now it was a new talent night. So you had brand new comics, some of whom had never been on the stage before. No,
it wasn't new talent. It was the night. It was the same night. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm probably wrong. This was a different thing. The one I was thinking about was with the couple sitting next to one another, the elderly couple, and you asked if they were married.
This one you're gonna have to refresh your memory. I mean, it sounds familiar, but
a comic was appearing at a local comedy club. He had been in the area, so he had family there. He lived in California, pretty clean comedian, did singing and stuff like that. His family all came to the show while he was there.
Can I say his name? Because I know he's a good guy. Can I say his name?
Who?
Brian Shield.
Yeah. So
great guy.
Rob was warming up the room.
I think
one of his bits was so he turned to a woman in the row and he said, so are you married to this guy? She said no. And Rob said, oh, so you're just sleeping with one another.
Yep.
But he didn't put it that politely. And this 80-year-old woman turned to Rob and said, no, he's my brother. Move along.
and you know what? You can give me some credit. I immediately was like, yes, you're definitely not effing. And how are you guys doing? And I immediately tried to change it and at least added some sort of humor to it. But I'm pretty sure that my face is burned in what's left of that lady's memory.
Rob, I felt so bad for you, and I felt even worse laughing so hard.
Well, that's the thing. See, that's the cool thing about comics that maybe some of your viewers who go to shows but don't go all the time don't realize. The funniest thing to another comedian is watching a fellow comedian completely blow it on stage. Uh-huh. If you're sucking and you're awful on stage, the other comics are in the back howling. If you happen to hear, if you're in a room and there's no laughter in the crowd, but you hear some in the way back, it's the other comics and they're having a ball at your expense. Absolutely. It's the only saving grace to having a completely bomb out set.
Rob, you know something? I learned a lot from that, and I bet you did too. In reflecting, that be careful. Be careful. I have made plenty of mistakes. I think that's a big part of growing. I think even now, if I were to get up, I don't make those types of mistakes anymore. I was still in it long enough to have known better. So I kind of own those. If I could have that lady here, I would explain that to her. Especially if that was related to Brian, because Brian's such a good guy. Last thing I want to do is upset some folks that he brought to the show, and he's coming from out west. Why did you think suggesting that his aunt fucking her brother would upset Brian? He's cool.
I was convinced that they were husband and wife, and I say, you guys married, and this is a go-to that I've done this a couple times, and 99% of the time it works every time. But in this case, this was that one time. This is that 1%.
Rob, in your 15 years in comedy, was that your most mortifying experience, or can you think of another that you're willing to share?
No, the first one was pretty mortifying. The one that he said, because I went up angry. At this particular individual, and she was hooting and hollering, causing a stir and causing a problem. And Doug, it wasn't the first thing that I'd said to her. It was maybe the second or third thing that I said to her.
It was funny to me because I don't hear well. And the first thing that I heard was, and now you're MC. Lady, do I need to put my... So
actually, I didn't say
a lot of comedians are funny because they're funnier to me because I don't hear right. So I do my own writing between where I don't hear things.
I didn't say mine. I say someone needs to stick there.
Yeah. I think you did say, I don't think you were off. I think that's correct.
That I do remember that, because that's a moment that, like, it's one of those moments that as soon as I said it, it was like, why?
And I
Why
was
did you
sitting
do
across from the aunt and the uncle and the comedian's mother. I was
Well-
sitting right across from them.
Well, that I can correct. That one was a situation. I kind of backed off of it. I did kind of, I let them know, like, hey, pardon me, my mistake. And then boom, moved on to take the attention off of them. And that's kind of one of the things you do to adjust. And at least I was able to recover.
Rob,
When I opened my set with that line to that one lady sitting up front, I did it out of pure anger. And then I was not right for the rest of my set. I didn't have a good set, and I did a disservice to the rest of the show. And that was probably, what, it'd be 7, 8 years ago. That was a long time
first
ago.
of all, you didn't do a disservice, because people feel your vibe and they listen. You were first of all, you recovered and you moved along and you did your material, and you've got good material. So, you had your safe place. I remember, I could tell you were, you were, what's the word for, you were messed up a little bit at that time, but you kept on going. But I want you to know, if you ever think of those horrible times in your comedy career, I want you to know that I found them like the funniest. No, I think the only other one was Julia Scotti with her story about a guy that showed up on a first date bringing her a dozen bagels because he worked at a bakery instead of a dozen roses. And Julia said, "Bagels," and that.
I think if I was a woman, I would be more impressed by the bagels than I would be by the flowers. The bagels would be just funny. I'd be like, you go home to your girlfriends, you're like, he brought me bagels. That's hysterical.
You're making me think of funny gifts that you may have given to people. I didn't know we were going to be talking about this. I know Tom received a funny gift that we can't talk about on air.
Why
The
can't
shirt
we talk
box.
about it?
Because it
Oh,
was in the shirt box.
Yeah. We've told that story before.
You told that story before.
Well, you've coaxed me into telling it before. I know Rob is wondering what the hell we're talking about.
Why would I coax you into telling a story about a shirt box with something disgusting in it? That's not good radio, Tom.
Well, that's not the crux of the story. That was like a punchline. But anyway, Rob.
Punchline? What's that?
Rob, the story is I was at Grandma
story.
Nina's house for Christmas Eve one year.
Okay.
And I was the oldest of the cousins. My cousin Albert was the youngest of the cousins at the time. And he was just a little kid. And my family got there before Uncle Sal's family got there. And Grandma Nina asked me to take out the garbage. So on my way out, I see this big empty box. So I thought, the wheels started turning. I put the garbage in the box. I wrapped it up, wrapped it in wrapping Christmas paper. To Albert, loves Santa. Albert's my cousin. So they finally get to the house. Albert sees this huge box with his name on it. Oh, can we open up the gifts? Can we open up? No, after dinner, all day long, 4 hours. Italian dinners are 4 hours. 4 hours long. Can we open up the gifts? Uncle Sal, no, after dinner. Finally, they give him the okay. Okay, let's go open up the gifts. Albert runs into the other room, starts tearing off the paper, and pulls out this wet, soaked bag of garbage. And his face just fell. And everybody collectively moaned and looked at me with daggers in their eyes. They knew right away who it was. So I crushed my little cousin. Fast forward to October when it's my birthday. I'm at Albert's house, my cousin's house, and my Aunt Angela says, Albert, why don't you go in the other room? I'll come and help you, and we'll bring in the gift that we have for Thomas. They go in the other room. They're in the bathroom. I didn't realize. They open up a shirt box from Stearns, and my cousin proceeded to take a huge dump in this shirt box. And they wrapped it back up with the tissue paper.
Okay.
They come out, and I open it up, and everybody starts cracking up. And my little great grandmother, who was like 4 feet tall with a hump and a mustache thicker than ours, she couldn't see what everybody was laughing at. So she inched closer and closer and closer until she got a whiff of it. And then she went, woo, like Curly Howard. And that was it. Everybody just broke up over that.
Oh my God. And that didn't ruin the Italian dinner?
Oh, no, well, we had eaten already. This was after,
You
after the cake.
Italians, you know, Jews. I can't remember. I'm 64, Tom. I can't remember one time a relative of mine crapped in a box and gave it to me.
Oh,
That's something that firefighters would do to mess with each other.
yeah, yeah. Well, that was my family.
Oh my God. I'm mostly Italian like you, Tom. So it's like everything is food, man. You know, you go for a dinner for two and you have enough for the next 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And the
Absolutely.
problem is running out of Tupperware, and you're wrapping it in foil and putting it in Ziploc bags.
Okay,
Right.
you two guys, you do. We got time. You guys do 15 minutes together on food. Go.
Well, Italian Tupperware was basically the empty polio regatta containers,
Yeah.
right? As
Oh, my
opposed to say Irish Tupperware, which is Cool Whip.
Tom, you were proud. You got a like a 3,000 point Scrabble word or something with Italian food recently.
No, you know, I've been dieting and I've been on a bunch of different diets, but I realized that, you know, the sfogliatelle, the pastry, Rob?
Yeah.
You know what a sfogliatelle is, right? Well,
course.
I realized on Weight Watchers, it's like 8,000 points, but in Scrabble, it's only 21 points. So I'm going on the Scrabble diet from now on. It's a lot more fun.
I'm about to say, if you're an Italian and you can cook, you're probably kicking some ass in Scrabble. No doubt about it. There's no doubt.
Right? Listen, I've got a lot of Italian in me. My boys are both half Italian.
Is that right?
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know
So
how they got that way, but that's how they turned out.
Did you marry a Maria? What's her mother's
That is
name?
why, Rob. That is why. I've been to Italy like 4 or 5 times. My ex had family in Italy, so
Oh,
I've
I'm
been like a
jealous.
number of times. I can
Have you
order.
ever been?
I can order alcohol in Italian very well.
I've never been to the closest thing to Italy I've ever been to is Little Italy. That's it.
Yeah, I don't even fit in. I don't even fit in Little Italy.
Or a pizza restaurant. That's it. Domino's. That's the closest
Yeah.
I've been.
Tom, that's a very good line, by the way.
You like
know,
that?
so-
I just made
You
it up.
don't fit
Yeah.
in Little Italy. Listen,
Oh,
we should give our guest Rob some time to highlight himself and his comedy. So why don't we just give Rob the next 25 minutes, and Tom, you and I we'll keep quiet. Go, Rob.
We'll take a nap.
oh my goodness. Highlight.
I'm kidding. We were talking about Zoom comedy, and I was going to tell you I've got this Zoom show coming up, and the only Zoom comedy I've done other than this, which it really, I guess it doesn't count as comedy. It counts as
You know,
Zoom. But
I have. I'm sorry.
the one show that I did was almost like this, where there were 4 or 5 other comics. So I couldn't see the audience. You know, there were other 100 people watching, but you know, otherwise, if you have like the speaker view on it, you're looking at yourself doing your material, trying to make yourself laugh. And unless you're like a delusional idiot like me, it's not going to work. You know, you're gonna. But the shows, the comedy shows where you can see the other comedians reacting, you get some feedback, and you know you're not alone. But
You know, I wanted to do a couple of Zoom shows, and I put it out there to some folks, like, you know, hey, you know, book me for a Zoom show. And the one thing that I didn't tell really many people, and maybe I should have, is that I have an awesome Zoom show space. So like, where so many people, and I've seen a couple of the Zoom shows, they're talking like us, they're sitting at their desk or they're sitting in a chair somewhere. I actually built like my stage. And, you know, I got a microphone and a sound system. Did I do it right? I think so. Yeah. So I have, it looks like a real
you could
setup,
do it.
and, you know,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
a microphone, and then you know, the sound system, everything. I hook up a mic to the phone, and I would get up there, and this is how I work out. I rehearse every single night. I've written so much material since COVID started. I have no place to do it. So it's
You have here. You've got us, Rob. You've got us.
I'm not going to bludgeon your show with my new crap.
Anyway, but what I was saying is the dynamic of the 4 or 5 comics on screen for a comedy show makes it feel, I think, to the audience more like they're in on a comics, you know, talk at a dining table. So it wasn't doing a set. We
So it's
we
more
would
like just
we would pass off to one another. We like kind of what we're doing here.
that's pretty cool. That's like I said, it's something that I think I would not be too bad at, because I mean I think I'm probably better on Zoom than I am in front of a crowd.
No, you're not, Rob. No,
I don't know. I'm very critical of myself.
You're not you're not that good tonight. But I've seen you be amazing. I've seen you be. I'm gonna get myself killed one day. You know that?
Hey,
And
someone
it's gonna be my mouth. I know it.
Now,
That's how it's gonna happen.
Rob, you should know that Doug drinks, usually during the show.
I'm out of my bourbon. This is Bass Ale.
Ooh, what's your favorite bourbon?
I've been enjoying Woodford, but I honestly, Rob, I mix it with 7-Up, so it's not Jim Beam. It's Woodford. I tried something was on sale. Who?
Woodford Reserve?
Yeah.
I love that stuff, man. I just started getting into bourbons like within the last 6 months. I used to never drink.
Yeah.
You've all
Oh,
any
yes.
comics work me. You
Oh,
see
yeah.
me drink beer. You see me drink lots of beer. You never actually see me do shots or have like a drink on the rocks. But I just started having bourbons, and man, I love it. They're delicious. Like it tastes like cheap hairspray if you drink them quick. But if you just kind of let
No,
them
it's
sit.
you know what it is. I think of it like a cheap man's cognac, but I like the taste of it. So, and I mix mine with 7-Up, so I don't have to be that fussy. I buy a liter 0.75 bottle, and I'll go a month with it and kind of have a drink a day.
Yeah, Doug walks into the liquor store and says, "Take me to your leader."
0.75. That's the punchline. That's where the audience cracks up, right, Tom? I say 0.75. Oh, oh my God.
Shit, what the hell was I about to say? Fuck it. Wow.
Let's talk about you in comedy. Do you have favorite comedians? Do you have oh, I did want to ask you a question.
Sure.
We call this we do this with all our guests. We call this the black or brown game. So I'm gonna pick a race and you give us your reaction, yes or no.
Oh, oh no, this is gonna get me canceled, isn't it?
Tom, I think we should make that a regular part of our show so people know who they're listening to.
We can continue with our random questions that we started.
Oh no, you got some left over?
Well, yeah. You ready for some random questions?
It's surprising you have any left over, Tom.
All right, Rob, you ready?
Absolutely, go for it.
What was it like touring with Sha Na Na?
What was it like touring with Sha Na Na? I'm trying to think of what you're looking for here. I can't figure it out.
It's just a stupid question. There is no right or wrong answer.
I get what you're doing. I get what you're doing.
Yeah, Tom, you need to ask him a stupider question. Even stupider, Tom. Can you do stupider?
It's gotta be stupider.
Have
now I know what
stopped,
you're looking for.
have you stopped beating your girlfriend?
Tom,
Yes or no?
Have I stopped eating her? That's not a question she's gonna want me to answer here live on the air in front of all these people.
I didn't say eating. Anyway, let's go on.
Beating
Rob?
her? You mean that like sorry? Like with me and her kid play sorry sometimes. I
Rob?
beat them so bad.
Rob,
Yes.
is there a woman in your life you're
There is.
here to talk about?
Sure.
And
She's a nice girl. You'll meet her sometime.
make your protestations of love to her on air. That way, if you ever get in a fight, there'll be a video record. I don't know.
Is it anyone we know?
I'm trying to think.
How long have you been with her?
We've have a very interesting history. We would
I know
date
what
for a
that
little
means.
while. We would not date for a little while, and then there was distance between us for a while. Now there's not distance between us, and now things are wonderful. She's got a few kids, so I get to spend time with her and the kids, and it's great. And it's funny because her 16-year-old daughter has become my true barometer for comedy. Now, it's impossible to make a 16-year-old kid laugh. So if I say something that this kid laughs at, I've got it. Then I got to write it down, and I've got to just keep it. It's there. It's show ready. As soon as she starts to laugh, it's show ready.
My
Otherwise,
My girlfriend's son loves my comedy. I can't say anything that he doesn't think is funny. And she's like, no, 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 no.
Yeah, that's just a bad joke. Bad joke. Bad joke. And then like if I ever get the then it's just like, yes, got it. Notepad. Notepad.
I will
Now,
say,
I don't even need to try it at mic. Now it's just show ready. Here we go. Add it to the act.
Now, Rob, I'm not even sure. Do you do much, or did you do much in Manhattan, in New York?
I did a little bit in Manhattan. I'd probably say I performed about 7 or 8 of the clubs in there, but every situation was different. Sometimes you're the host of a new talent type of show. Other times you're, I was actually pretty fortunate to be on a show that was headlined by Judy Gold. That was pretty cool.
Nice.
I did a show downstairs at Gotham, and then right upstairs while it was going on, Jerry Seinfeld was on stage. That was pretty damn cool.
Wow.
I'm not going to say I opened the door for him and I opened for Jerry Seinfeld. No,
I never
got
realized
to,
I could say I opened for Gaffigan, because when I did new talent at the Gotham, like my 4th show ever, Gaffigan was headlining. Asshole
That's
stole
cool.
some of my stuff. He stole my premise. And so did Tosh, and so did Daily Show.
Anyway, I saw on Facebook today that they're going to be opening in April, Broadway Comedy Club and Greenwich Village.
Yeah, but to what, like 20% capacity or something like that?
I'm not sure what the percentage is.
It had been 25, and then they stopped it again, and I don't know what the number is, but
I think it's like 20, maybe 30. I think I saw, because I saw the same report that you saw, Tom.
Okay.
But I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but I'm no longer in New Jersey. I'm out in Pennsylvania now, and out here it went from, and this is just, wow, this is shocking and so exciting. We went from 10% capacity for gatherings to 15% capacity for gatherings. So yeah, no,
surprising. Well, with what Texas and Mississippi are doing, it's we might all be back wearing masks for another year if it spreads around. I think we ought to quarantine those states, blockade the interstates.
Or if it works, then start it in other states that are as densely populated. Like New Jersey, it would be really tough to do. Pennsylvania still has some pretty heavy populated cities. I don't think it would work there, but you get to like Kansas maybe, or you get like some of those middle states, it might be a little easier. But it's you do have to be careful, and I get why you're not seeing so many shows as much these days, and I understand it. It doesn't change the fact that I hate it. I want to be back on stage. I want to be back performing 4 nights a week, 5 nights a week, like I was doing, and like you guys were doing, like we were all doing, and getting up in the clubs and getting our friends out.
That was Tom. It was never me, because Tom spends half of every one of our shows talking about how I'm not funny. That I've never. That's bullshit. It's humiliating. I've been with him 2 years, and
Doug, you're just as funny
because I'm waiting for him to have an epiphany and say, "Okay, Doug, you made me laugh one time."
No, I think you realize we're together because I'm one of the few that think you're funny.
Hey, right back at you, Tom. Except that's not true. Everybody thinks Tom is funny.
No, see, Doug is funny, but he's got a smaller appeal.
I thought you were going to say brain.
No, not that. No, we're like Doug, the brain.
Doug is smart enough to make us all look stupid. Here's the one thing that I wish Doug would take more risks. I wish Doug would try getting a little blue and try getting a little risk being offensive. But I know that's not your style, Doug.
Can I tell you something, Rob? Sure. I wrestle with that all the time, because I have so many like bits in my head that are just filthy and they need the right venue. The other problem with that, and one of my friends is a comedy producer in New York, and he always jokes, because when we're talking, I'll often say Stephanie is not going to like that, and so I have to balance getting laughs with sex. And
well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I want to first of all, and I'm 64, Rob. So people have told me my ship has sailed, blah, 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 blah. I love comedy. I have to have it and I have to do it, but I like the company of, the fairer sex. And in her defense, despite the fact that I've never said the things she thinks are funny, I always do a double take and I'm like, what? I didn't say anything funny. And almost every time I've never said anything funny, but she finds it funny. So but she's a barometer for how women will take it. And I've done jokes that are blue and they're gonna offend women, half the audience.
I think that's at least in a smaller situation, like in an open mic where there's often plenty of women in an open mic, or maybe a show that would pose less of a risk. Maybe it's not for somebody that you're trying desperately to work for. I think you should try to pull out those guns and fire, because all right, so a perfect example.
You want that dog that I petted with the orgasm to like come all over me. I know that. You want
Doug, that's a funny bit. That's a funny bit, man. I love that bit.
This has been Funny Talk with Manjali and Max. You've been listening to our last show.
Oh, stop it. You say that every show.
I did that joke at Stress Factory. Was it Catch? And Helene Angley was in the audience. I didn't know it at the time, but she came up after me and she's giving me notes on my set. She wanted to hear more about the dog. And I'm like, you sick.
Doug, the dog is funny. The dog is funny. You have to run with that. You have to run with that. The dog is funny.
I had to run with it because otherwise it wasn't going to let me have sex with it.
Dog, you just got it. There you go. Write that down. Notepad. Right now. Somebody find him a notepad.
Yeah.
But
hey, Rob, I'm going to give Stephanie your phone number. You can explain. I tried to explain to her. I said, honey, I had the conversation. I said, honey, if you were Rembrandt's girlfriend, would you say, stop looking at those people's muscles? Or if you were Picasso's girlfriend, would you say, would you stop playing with colors? Come and sit and watch TV with me in the living room. I'm like, honey, I've got to do this.
This is no offense to Stephanie. I think have I met Stephanie? How long you guys been together?
I don't know. 5 years.
I must have been at some point, because I know she's been out to a show that we've been on.
Beautiful redhead.
Yes. I have met her. She probably doesn't remember me, but I now I do remember her, and she's a sweetheart. Yes. So, and this is not a knock to her, but Doug, you got to do it for you. You got to do it for you. And if it's going to upset her, then it sucks. I've had a few significant others in my life that were like, I really hate when you do that bit, and I think a couple of the bits I'm talking about, where I do the cute sneeze that sounds like we're having sex. That's like, I don't think I've even had any woman in my life who's ever not heard that bit and be like, why did you do that? Because it works.
I've learned I can't tell stories about my girlfriend anymore. So I tell them they'll all be about my ex-wife. And then all the female stories will go in there.
Perfect.
And
there
then
you go.
Yeah.
See, I'd say everything like it's my current girlfriend, even though none of that applies to her, and she knows it. She'll come out to a show, and I normally I can't see her, but I would imagine she's back there, like, all right, get this over with. Get back to the stuff about your dad, please. Thank you. All right, great. This is over. Cool. Give me a shot, please. A shot of anything. The hardest thing you got.
Anyway, Rob, thank you for saying that. I appreciate your thinking of me. And,
absolutely. And you know what it is, Doug, too. You have certain intangibles that any booker would find enjoyable, that any crowd would find enjoyable. You're incredibly likable. You do have a very lighthearted feel on stage. And I think it's perfect to get a little risky. So, like, what I was gonna say before we got a tiny bit sidetracked. One of the prime examples of that is somebody who I believe has been on your show is Joan Weisblatt. And one of the things I love about her is that as soon as she gets on stage, you see this sweet lady with a sweet smile on her face,
putting the vibrator between her legs, hoping somebody will call.
Yeah, she goes into acts like the bits like that. And like, you ever see her when somebody's trying to like if they're talking at the table, like, oh, hi, how are you? How's everything going? Well, I'm doing this. Would you mind shutting the fuck up, please? Like, and that's all what makes her so wonderful, because she's not afraid to get a little bit risky. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you don't want to go up there and start dropping cultural bombs. You don't drop N bombs and C bombs and this bomb and that bomb, of course, but you're not going to do that because that's not who you are. If I think you can get a little risky. I think you can get a little risky. You can stomp your foot into that puddle of mud and you can see how far it goes.
I do have some pretty funny Holocaust stories.
But I think you
got to do those at temple shows.
Yeah, I think you're right, Robin. Coming from Doug, it'll be that much funnier because it's so different from what he normally comes across.
But people don't know that. The audience doesn't know that. They don't,
Sure.
You got to sell it to them. You got to sell them.
Well, I do. I suck them in. I suck them in pretty well. I've learned my opening line. I have to pretend to be, my opening line. I had to go through a procedure to have sex again. The audience is expecting me to describe some horrible operation.
But embellish that. Be like, you just be like, now I can't stop having sex. Now I'm not having sex with the girlfriend. I'm having sex with the dog or the couch or the wall. You ever try to make love to sheetrock? I don't know, just get silly and stupid.
I have an entire bestiality set. I didn't realize it. I've got a story entitled Elephant Penis and another one called The Masturbating Chimpanzee. And of course, my dog story, which is really more than just a dog story. But anyway, this isn't Rob. This isn't about me. This is far too much about me. This all needs to be about you.
Oh man, I'm weird like that because anytime it starts to get like that, I'm going to start bringing it back to you guys. That's just my nature.
And we're out of time.
We're out of time. That was the fastest hour ever.
We actually,
Rob, you know what I want you to know?
We're not, but we're close.
I know that most comics have favorite venues or favorite types of venues. There's the New York comedy clubs, there's the Jersey comedy clubs, there's the firehouses and the PBAs and all of that. What's your ideal venue and demographic that you appeal to?
Oh man, any stage is great to be on, but I tend to thrive a little bit better in blue collar settings. So if we're getting up, in front of a firehouse and there's a ton of people there, or at a veterans lot, like a veterans post, I love those. I mean, my father was both a veteran and a firefighter, so I feel like I relate to them as soon as I get on stage.
Okay.
And I feel like I'm doing something to help them. I feel like I'm doing something to help that community. And not only are you doing your set and having fun, but it feels good. The comedy clubs are great because they can fabricate that feeling, and it is for the crowd, it's authentic, and for us, it is fabricated. That's every club you go to, whether it's New York City or whatever. I have a lot of fun at the clubs in New York City because my act pisses them off, and there's a weird part of me that enjoys that, because I feel like if I go into the Greenwich Village Comedy Club on any night at all, and I piss off the whole crowd, as soon as you walk out of there, they forget about you. It's a little bit different when you go do something like a firehouse, because they're not going to do another show for another year, and if you piss them off, that's what they're going to remember. So you try a little bit harder to make sure that they enjoy themselves. I feel like that's a little bit more of a challenge than a New York City club or something along those lines, I mean, I hope I sufficiently answered the question.
Yeah, no, this is not Barbara Walters, but
I'm surprised. I'm surprised to hear you say you piss the audience off, because I can't, other than saying inappropriate things.
Talking about like, I've had someone come up to me and like, that you were talking about your father being a drinker. My father was a drinker, and it really hurt to hear you talk about that. I was like, well, I'm going to make fun of the things in my life that were a little bit dark. So, even though I don't have that many, but yeah, I'm going to talk about it, and I find it funny. If you don't find it funny, then I'm going to give you a
little, you offered me a piece of advice. I don't have a solution, but I'll say that with the appropriate context, you can greatly mollify how people might otherwise be thinking about you. Because I step back from my set and I think, you know, a common set of mine is basically online dating and how I'm tricking women into having sex with them. And women still laugh. And I'm like, why are they laughing? I'm not raping them, but I'm tricking them. I'm, acting like a puppy, whatever it takes. And I realize it's the vulnerability. It's the, showing the pain or the misery or the suffering, the 20 years of marriage with, not a lot of satisfaction, whatever it is. So a little bit of context can help. Tom has a bit about hiding a remote control from his father in a wheelchair in the freezer, so he couldn't watch TV all day. But the context of that is I took care of my father, for years, and I fed him, and I was a good boy. I broke and I hid the remote control.
I like that. I like that. I may have to pick your brain a little bit about that, but I think you make a great point. I think you make a great point. And
it can be a word or two. It can be, acting a little bit. Oh, it was really tough, or whatever, and just.
Well, like I said before, this beautiful area that I have created here in my personal dwelling is where I've been working on everything. And I've been not only writing material, but I've also been rewriting my old bits and just trying to find something that I just didn't have before. So like, right. You've heard me do the bit about the dogs and the 40-pound Jack Russell that looks like a crock pot with a tail. So I go, I go to, like, there's a whole bunch of them that I just started coming up with. And now I feel like I got 10 minutes on the dogs alone. And, who knows, but here's my problem. I could write 3 or 4 hours of material. I'm very lucky if 5 minutes of it makes it into my act. That's why I've been using the same act for so long. I'm a terrible writer, but I'm a much stronger material deliverer. I'm a much stronger performer. I think that's my strength, but my weakness, I've been trying to develop that weakness. And that's what I've been doing this entire time during COVID between painting rooms and driving forklifts.
It's tough. And you really need an audience. I can't tell you how. It's probably every set I've ever done. I will consistently not get a laugh where I intentionally know one is supposed to be, but I'll always get a laugh in a place I'd never expect it. Very often it's a pause. I'm not saying anything at all and they're laughing. The last time I did a set, there was a laugh that began at the back and it kind of spread around and it went on for like 20 seconds. And I turned to the audience and said, I don't need to be here. And that's how I felt at the time they're laughing. I hadn't said anything funny. Oh, it was Crocs. That was it. I talked about polishing my Crocs for a date. And it was a sleeper. People started thinking about it and it went around. I'm like, I don't need to be here.
See, like even your delivery, Doug, you just
it's
have
only
like
my delivery, Rob.
I never said only. I said even your delivery. Like you have a like you don't have a like there's some comics out there that have, and I'm not going to name names, of course, but they just have painful deliveries, and it's like you listen to them talk and you're cringing.
Love those I love those comics.
Of course you do, because you're in the back laughing at them because they're bombing up on stage and nobody's laughing. No, but
my favorite is honestly my favorite part of those comics is when they talk about how great they are.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
part. And that's something that so many of them have over me. They're just better promoters. Like you say to me before, like, hey Rob, tell us what you've got going on. Tell us a little bit about your career. And I'm like, I've been on stage and I talk into a microphone. I just suddenly get lost. But if we start talking about, that's why, just by nature, I bring it back to you guys. And it's like, I can talk about that more fluidly. I can't write good material for myself very well, but I had no problem coming up with something stupid for you to do, Doug. And it was like,
thank you.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yourself.
I would love
I'm going
to
give you another trick I learned. The only decent trick I learned from the sociopath comic that you and I both know. And he said, when you write jokes, like write write them on a separate line, and make sure you have a joke every, a laugh somewhere, every 3 lines, every 2, something like that. But if you write it out, and I add on to that, and then all get rid of all the unneeded words, the adverbs, the adjectives, and boil it, really boil it down to what's the funny thing in all that. And then I'll make a point of never telling the audience that, because then they'll just laugh.
And listen, if
timing.
that works, if that works, cool. But and that same comic, I know you're talking about. I know you're not naming names, but actually also had another piece of good advice to counter to put on top of that, asking who, what, where, when, why, and how. And that was something I will say I took away from him, and I've never once applied it, but I feel like if I did,
that's the important thing. It's your journey, as they say.
That's true. That's true.
I found that among comics that I know went to the same kind of comedy class stage, a formulaic approach to it. The setup. What are the 3 parts of the joke? I know there's a punchline in them, but the setup, and then there's a punchline and something in between. But anyway, if you notice, once you notice the timing, I'll start to get bored, because I'll realize they're constructing. And I also prefer jokes from real life, or at least that begin in real life, so there's an authenticity to it.
I like jokes that personify objects. Like, I don't know. My sunburn was so bad, I'm pretty sure the sun is pissed at me.
Okay.
That's just a real quick example, but
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Tom has about 1,000 worse examples, Rob.
I call it my act.
I love those, and I find myself using that more often in my daily life than I do ever on stage. And that's something I, at least with some of what I've been writing lately, I've been trying to incorporate. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. I feel like I think that I think I might actually have like a good new 15 minutes. I'm dying to get up and try it out, like in front of the crowd.
What's the theme holding it together?
It's more me and my family, and just more of that stuff, and more of my jobs. I mean, that's what my act has always been. It's either been about my jobs or about my family. Good. It's been about, and I just try to make it about me, because I feel like nobody else can mimic me and what I'm doing. So they can, if I'm talking about working at Walmart, they're not going to have my experiences to draw on. So they're not going to be able to go back.
I love your bit when you came home so proud to tell your dad your new job title.
The package handler.
Package handler.
Yeah, like stuff like that. I mostly beat myself up in my act, because I feel like, I don't know, all my friends bust my balls all the time, and they're always making fun of me. And so, like, good nature, Rob, not being jerks about it, but Rob, like, I feel like I draw from that, and that's where I get a lot of my stuff from.
That makes you a much better comic than those that want to just attack their audience for some reason.
Yeah.
When you're the butt of your own humor. And I think that's a lot of mine too. If anybody's going to get hurt in my act, it's going to be me. And people want to laugh at me,
I think that's always just a safe approach, because if you're making fun of yourself, they can't make fun of you either. And it even has happened at least a couple of times where somebody says something to me, while I'm on stage, and it's such a shot to your heart when somebody says something to you on stage. The rest of the crowd hears it and they laugh, and you've been fighting for that laugh for the last 10 minutes, and they get it. But a lot of times I don't look at that moment like, what a freaking jerk. This crowd sucks. I get pissed off. No, like, what the hell did he say? Because that was funny. That's going in.
Yeah.
Listen, your job is to be up there and have the audience laughing. And I've had many moments where the audience has said something that everybody has laughed at. of course, I don't hear it. And I use that to my, but it's
Well, you only hear
true.
half of it.
I am. But, you know, I'll tell you, when you're with a woman and she knows that you're deaf, you say, I'm deaf. That's why I didn't hear. They accept that. Even though I've got one working ear, we don't have to go into details. But with an audience, you know, if people yell out stuff to me, I'm like, well, you can yell whatever you want. I'm deaf. I can't hear you. And they shut up. I'm like, I've had lectures with them where I've told them I'm immune to hecklers because I can't hear you.
Doug's like the Beethoven of comedy.
Thank you, Tom.
Oh my goodness! You know, it's Doug. I don't know if I ever told you this, and you know, I feel close enough to you now that I can admit this. I do a great impression of you.
Oh no!
Really?
Yes, I do. I actually, it's funny. I have a weird talent. I can impersonate not famous people, but people that I know. So like I have, and it's worked in a lot of different like family settings and also comedic settings. So like there's a lot of comics that I do pretty accurate impressions of. You're one of my better ones.
Are you, me or Tom?
No, you, Doug.
Let me hear me, and I'll do John Hollywood for you. I have a great John Hollywood.
I have a cartoonish John Hollywood. I have a
mine is great.
I have a cartoonish one. It's a little embellished.
Mine is terrific.
That's good.
If you close your eyes, you're gonna hear John Hollywood.
Oh man, there's the crowd over at the Cove this weekend. Man, I killed them both nights. Great set. That's not that good, but like, you know, even you, like when you introduce the show, this is Funny Talk with Doug Max and Tom Angeli, and we have special guests with us this evening, and it's Rob Epple. Thank you, Rob. Thank you for coming on the show. I'm so happy to have you.
You sound to me like the sociopath used to imitate me, and that's how you sounded.
And let me tell you something, Doug. It's a weird thing. I can just pick up on certain mannerisms in people and the way they talk, their cadences, and how they say certain words and certain phrases. And some people I can do it. Like I'm not gonna lie, I've done this impression for a couple of other comics, and they're like, oh my god, that is
so
crazy.
You know what, Rob? You may or may not know this. Tom and I once did a set together, and I did his set, and he tried to do mine. I got laughs. Of course, he got blank stares. But if you're that good, I will work on my imitation of you. I know I've probably got 5 minutes of your material memorized, and you'll do my set. We'll get together when in the after times when we can do live comedy. We'll get together and I'll do my yeah. I don't remember everything, but you know it'll be funny if it's horrible.
That's actually one of your biggest talents, Doug, is
taking other people's comedy.
Yeah, he remembers everybody's act. I was like, how the hell did you remember that?
I don't. I only remember
like 10 years ago that I haven't done since, and we'll bring it up like
I remember the things that you say that are funny, and it just happened to have been 10 years ago.
Last month, you guys had Doug Karf on your show, and I've been good friends with him for my entire career since day one, and I've seen his act hundreds and hundreds of times. I know it by heart, and it just so happens I do a great impression of him too. Oh, and really? He knows this. I've done it right to his face. I've done it with his girlfriend sitting in his lap at my house. I've done it for him. He knows it's not like something I'm shy about. And I've always told him, like, dude, if you're ever not feeling good, I'll just go up and do your set.
I love it.
So I didn't know this, but when I was driving around the sociopath, because I was his bitch, we went to an open mic where Doug was running it in
Springfield? McLean's? Springfield, McLean's.
Yeah, McLean's. So I get there kind of early. It was early on in my career. So, you know, it's a new open mic for me. I think I had met Doug once or twice before. So I sit down at the table and I'm working on my notes. And I moved the salt shaker that was in the center of the table out of my way. So it was, so I could get out my work.
Doug, what are you doing? Why
Doug,
did you
no,
move that?
he moved it back to the center and aligned it. And I noticed it, but I didn't say anything.
You did it with this, right? You did this thing.
Yeah. So then I went up. So then I just, while he's talking to somebody, I twisted it. And I think I did that a couple times. And I realized he and I don't manifest my OCD that way, but I have it and I recognized it very clearly. And, but the funny story I tell about Doug was, Jason Pollock had been the manager at, Scotty's for most of the new talent nights that I had been to for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And I love those shows. And I was getting embarrassed at the end. I'm like, how long are you supposed to be doing this? And people are saying, oh, I just do them 3 months. And then I just, now I tell people I'm not doing showcases anymore. If they want me, they have to pay me money. I'm like, after 3 months.
3 months. Jesus, that would be nice.
Yeah, like, man, I want to get a hot young body, Anyway, so one night I had been, and I'd always had people, I had 10 people, 12, 14. I always had people coming at the Cove. One night I only had 2 people coming. Jason wasn't there. Doug was there. And I'd never met, no, this is the first time I met him. He goes, I shouldn't put you on at all, but I'm going to give you 2 minutes. So he literally gave me 2 minutes. I got the light. I basically said hello and goodbye. I get off. He motions me furiously, come back with me into the back hallway.
2 minutes and 25 seconds.
It was 2 minutes and 13 seconds, Rob. I remember. I remember. It was maybe not 13, but it was not 30. It was like in the teens. And I'm like, wow. And I think we just lost Rob.
No, I had a battery alert.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Well, listen, we've done our time. I've got nothing going on except for a Zoom show from Canada in April. Rob,
there you go.
You got painting to do.
Yeah, I got pallets to shuttle at work on a forklift and material to write in my basement. So the only thing I will say is if anybody's got a Zoom show and you need 15 minutes filled, I'll do old stuff, not the new stuff. Or if you want the new stuff, I'll do the new stuff too. Even our sponsor, can I do a shout out to the sponsor?
Please.
Yep.
J. Irwin Productions. Jack is a great guy. I've met him a whole bunch of times. I have not had the privilege of working for him. So I know he does good shows. I've seen his lineups. He has great acts going. And if hopefully he wants to add, a certain spiky haired fat guy to his act, and
that would be
who likes to wear gray shirts and spike his hair and do Doug Max impressions.
And Rob, I hope it gets back to where you're producing shows too around your area. I hear we talked to another comic in Ohio, and he said the comedy world was great. They didn't have so I hope, where are you in Pennsylvania?
I'm in the Poconos. I'm right
Okay.
outside of Stroudsburg. So
Nice.
like I'm not far from anything. So even if you guys, we'll have to catch up, man. Even when it warms up a little bit, I'll have a barbecue or something. You guys come out and I'll set up the stage outside. We can do something out there. But
After my barbecue and painting party, please.
Absolutely. Hell yeah. Give me a board, give me a brush. I'll take care of that. Then I'll get up and do 5 minutes and I'll be out the door. I'll tip the waitress and then I'll pick her back up.
Thank you.
That was for you, Tom.
Thank you.
Tom,
But I've got a few
20
things to
minutes, so
plug.
go on. What are you doing, Tom?
All right, I'm going to be at a new venue in Paramus called the Orange Lantern. Ron Weiser is running that. It's going to be Saturday, March 20th. It's an 8 p.m. show, and I'm looking forward to that. Rich Carucci is going to be headlining. Love working with Rich. And then Tuesday, March 23rd at 8 o'clock. Also, I'm going to be at the Laughing Fox in Magnolia, New Jersey. That's one of the things that Matt Bridgestone runs with Steve Rinaldi. And that should be a good show. It's kind of like a Philly crowd down there. It's just south of Cherry Hill. And then I'm going to be on March 26th, which is a Friday, at the Loretta Winery, which I'm looking forward to. And I'm going to be with someone who you mentioned, Doug, Helene Angley. She's going to be headlining, and I'm going to be opening for her. And I was asked, I just realized I was asked to do 30 minutes. So I'm going to have to really practice for that one because I'm out of practice.
Why don't you add a little bit to your act, telling them a little bit about Billy, the dog that I got excited on my date? Because Elaine, we know, wants to hear more about the dog. So
There you
that'll
go.
at least please her.
Elaine's great. That's going to be a tremendous show.
Yeah, it should be, because I'm tremendous on my own.
Again,
and then
American humor.
Yes, Friday and Saturday, April 9th and 10th, 9 p.m. showtime. I'm going to be at Scotty's Comedy Cove. The headliner is none other than Doug Clark.
Nice.
Person we've been talking about for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, people come on our show and they ask Tom to open for him. What am I, chopped liver?
If I get something, Doug, I'll hook you up.
Fuck. Oh, yes. Yeah. Tom's gotten enough. He's gotten enough.
It's true.
Hey, man, he's here. He is spouting off 4 or 5 shows. I ain't been on stage since fucking February 2020. Ugh.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, one of the
It's
things.
10 up, dude. You have no idea how much I want to get out there in front of a crowd and actually let loose a little bit.
Listen,
I can
Rob,
imagine.
if you want to be out there and safe like Tom, you need to start eating, because Tom creates his own 6-foot perimeter.
Oh, I eat plenty. I don't know. I run a little bit. That's about it.
My nose doesn't even run.
Oy. So listen, guys, our show has been ended for a while. We've done our time.
Well,
It's
thank
been
you
fun.
so
The
much
time went very quickly, Rob. Thank you.
It was a blast. I had a good time with you guys, and yeah, the time did go quick. You know, that's how you know it's a good show. So it was awesome. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of it. And you know, please, I know you, Doug. I know that you're, I know you actually feel bad about not having me up. Please don't even give that a second thought. I'm just happy to be here now. Okay. And I hope to see you guys soon. I hope we get to share the stage and the field of battle out there very, very soon. Hope we get back to normal so we can resume what we were doing, how we were doing it.
We
Absolutely.
will. Good times are coming for everybody.
Thanks again for coming on the show.
And this
Appreciate
has been Rob
It's
Epple.
great
Look
seeing
for
you.
him. Look for Rob on Facebook, EPPLE.
That's right. Like Apple, except it starts with an E. Look for Rob Epple. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on you can find me on the Twitter at Rob Epple Comedy. Instagram, same thing at Rob Epple Comedy. Find me on Facebook. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to know you. I'd love to be your friend. That sounds creepy. That sounds creepy. I just send a request. I'm all about it.
Remember, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. All right.
So we're not going to end on that.
Well, what do you want to end on?
Something a little more erudite.
Erudite. The password is erudite.
Okay.
So
Okay,
this has been
way.
Funny Talk with Mangelli and Max. I'm Tom Mangelli.
I'm Doug Max. That's Rob Epple.
And on behalf of J. Irwin Productions, peace be with you.
Peace be with you. Is Star Wars? We do Star Wars?
We made it.
Okay,
right.
guys. Good talking to you.